This is the Triumph Trident 800. It's a motorcycle that riders have been clamoring for. It's got a punchy, powerful engine, a single round headlight, and best of all, an affordable price tag. But as is often the case with our hopes and dreams, be careful what you wish for, because this is what happens when a motorcycle manufacturer puts all of their skill points into affordability. The middleweight segment in motorcycling is super hotly contested, and the Trident 800 offers a new, yet somewhat old perspective on the category. I'm gonna find out if Triumph's approach actually paid off, because I'm gonna get this motorcycle out on the road, back in the studio, and give you a comprehensive breakdown on what this bike is actually like to ride. I purchased this motorcycle using my own funds, and it's a giveaway bike on my website, yammynoob.co. Click the link down below and become a member for your best chance to get entered to win, or pick up a piece of merch and you'll automatically get entered to win. All right, let's swing a leg and go for a ride. All right, folks, Triumph Trident 800. Now, don't worry, I can read, and I know that says Trident and not Street Triple, so I won't just be doing this whole video comparing it to a Street Triple, because I know it's a very different sort of motorcycle. I've been around the block a few times, boys. I think I can ascertain the details and the differences. So sub $10,000, you can pretty quickly spot some of those cheap things. Like, look at this exhaust bracket and this kind of welding, and this exhaust here, not the best. And then, wow, everybody's favorite thing, the single round headlight. I'm not so sure that looks that good. The styling's a bit weird to this thing, I'm not gonna lie. I think a lot of people are very enamored by it. I am not so convinced. What I am convinced about, however, is the seating position, the engine, and that's the important stuff. Ergonomics, fit and finish, the feel. You know, some of the fit and finish you can excuse. I think because this is Triumph, we tend to get up in arms, especially me as a big Triumph fan. Some of their older products, I'd like to think, oh man, like they've kind of lost their way, but I don't think that really tells the whole story. Let's go ahead and get it fired up, shall we? I think we gotta pull in the clutch in because it's a Triumph. 798cc, 3-cylinder, fires to life. Let's get a sound check. Spicy little unit, not gonna lie. We're missing the big honking induction sound that the old 675 and the 765s have, because this is not a race-derived motor, and this is not a race-derived product. This is a roadster. It's pretty simple. Got it? Follow? Good. So pulling away, clutch engagement's light. Everything fits super standard on this motorcycle, and that really tells you the whole story. This is a very standard bike. Everything about it is designed to be intuitive, easy to ride, standard, quick shifter up and down. You know, going down this hill, using the brakes a little bit, and you'll see that I've got what looks to be the cheapest master cylinder they could have fitted to this motorcycle. This looks like it wouldn't be out of place on a Ninja 500, I'm not gonna lie. And that's a bit jarring for a middleweight European motorcycle to have some of these things. But bones are good, engine's nice, it's torquey, side to side, it works just as well as it should. This bike has a very classic kind of energy about it. What do I mean? I mean that if you've ridden stuff like, I don't know, a Hornet 919 from the mid-2000s, a Bandit 1200 maybe, although that one is quite a bit heavier, this kind of feels like a UJM, which is no bad thing at all. To be honest, a lot of new motorcycles are getting really polished and really overly refined. It's kind of refreshing to ride something that's a little bit more just general purpose and rough around the edges, so to speak. But where it's not rough around the edges, and really where it shines, is the fact that this engine is thoroughly modern, the fueling is thoroughly modern, the pickup on the throttle feels really good, it's got a really nice hit of torque right in the middle, and although it's not a race-derived engine, like I said, it really doesn't need to be to have a really solid time on the street. Now, I'm about to hit the speed bump. Oh my God! And that's what I need to talk a little bit about, is the suspension package on this motorcycle. We have a theoretically fully adjustable Showa separate function fork up at the front, big piston, 41 millimeter, and I have dialed it into my preferred settings. The front end is pretty good on this bike. It's the rear end that I've got a problem with it. The rear end of this bike is kind of a catastrophe. It's using this extremely simple Showa monoshock. And I don't even think it's Showa. I think it's a no name, no budget, nothing, you know? And I think it's a motorcycle that it really would help if it had slightly upgraded suspension components, if it had something that was a little bit more premium, didn't pop you out of the seat, because it's a combination that's kind of bad in terms of it's a soft shock, and the rebound, you know, I've tried tweaking it, I've tried preload, the rebound is just like too fast, I think. And so what happens is you get this like soft kind of pogo thing, and at pace with the bike, it starts to feel a little crazy, I'm not gonna lie. It starts to feel a little zany. But otherwise, steel tubular frame, decent components. Nice motor, man. Nice amount of power, nice amount of juice from the motor. Feels really, really solid. Pick it up off the apex, it cruises on out through the corner. And it's balanced. It's not refined, and that's the thing. You know, we grade Triumph on a curve, we grade a lot of the European manufacturers on a curve, and it's not a refined motorcycle, and that can be a little jarring. But if you're used to riding Japanese stuff, this feels par for the course. Like, this is much more similar to a Z900, or, I hate to say it, but maybe first generation MT09, FZ09. Maybe that's Triumph's game here. They're trying to make something that, you know, is serviceable instead of special, instead of bespoke, instead of borderline exotica like they used to make. I think they're trying to make something that's just going to be like, yep, this is a great workhorse middleweight naked bike that's going to make a lot of people happy, and I'm pretty happy riding it. The ergonomics are super nice. They're very comfortable to sit on this machine. It's very enjoyable to just kind of cruise around with it. And that's exactly the kind of riding that someone buying this is going to be doing. They're going to be spending most time at 5 to 10% throttle, cruising on roads like this, not going particularly fast, but, you know, fast enough to where if they want to drop one gear and just kind of juice the throttle a little bit, they're like, okay, I got plenty of passing power, I make a great sound, I got the quick shifter. Like, the fundamentals of this bike are super strong, and that comes from a manufacturer like Triumph that's been building really great bikes for a long time. And it's great whenever a manufacturer can change that a little bit. You know, if they come from a place of, like, you know, they have made stuff that was super exotic and well handling in the past, whenever they step down to something like this, I think the know-how is there. And yeah, it's super interesting. It certainly feels like a Triumph product in a lot of ways. Like, I twist the throttle on that triple, it's pretty signature Triumph stuff, even if it doesn't have the street triple je ne sais quoi. But in other ways, it totally doesn't remind me of a Triumph at all. It really feels, it could be a CF Moto, it could be a Japanese bike. It's this new age, like, you know, you don't want to say slop because that's a bit critical, but it's a bike that just fits the moment. It fits a price point. So it certainly seems like they saved money in places that they kind of had to, right? I'll talk a little bit more about that in the shop when I do my detailed analysis of it. But, you know, some places, like I said, they didn't skimp out the fueling, the engine. You have cruise control on this motorcycle too, which is really nice to have. Super easy to actuate. You just press that button right there on the handlebar. Orange light pops up, and then you just press it again and you're cruising. So there we go, one hand off the throttle. We're cruising through here. It looks like you can set it at whatever speed you really want. Looks like there's no minimum or maximum as far as I've been able to tell. I set the cruise at 100 earlier and off the camera testing, and then we're cruising here 43 miles an hour. And that's really nice because this is a bike that, in theory, people are going to spend a lot of time on, a lot of mileage, a lot of cruising, right? And that's the great thing too. This thing has service intervals and reliability that, again, has become positively Japanese. 20,000 miles for service, for the major service, I believe. Pretty reliable, all things considered. There's a really nice set of right to left to rights up here. Let's see how we get it on the Trident 800. Put it down into third. Yeah, you push a little bit, and it does that kind of cheap bike thing where, you know, it's like left to right on the brakes. It just feels a little zany. It doesn't feel like settled and planted, you know, in the way that an RS660 would feel, in the way that a 200 660 would feel. It's got an old soul, man. It kind of has this old soul to it, which I kind of like. I kind of dig it. So you also get 3 distinct riding modes on the Trident 800, and it's pretty simple. You got a wet mode, like a rain mode, a road mode, and a sport mode. I'm in sport mode right now, and you can hold the revs a little bit, flick the bike through, pick it up. Really nice amount of torque in the middle. Ooh, yeah. And what I notice is, obviously there's a ton of movement at the rear, this relatively unsophisticated chassis and suspension combination. But between that and the Road 6 tires, you know, as you ride on the road and you start to approach the limit a little bit, what it does is it kind of reminds you just right there, you're like, whoa, buddy, you get a lot of feedback from the front tire. And it just, I don't know, I think it actually gives you confidence because it communicates pretty well through the chassis, even though the limits are lower and you feel more movement, right? Between the Road 6's kind of like breakaway characteristics and the chassis just like talkative nature, you know, if you have good inputs, if you brake nice and you pick up the throttle nice, it's a little bit of a wild ride, but it'll hold the line. It'll do what it needs to do. And as you kind of get it to be a little crazy, it actually responds pretty well. It actually does the job. All right, now one thing I wanted to see was this bike's slow speed manners. So let's go ahead and get into this parking lot, because that's kind of this bike's whole thing, right? It needs to work reasonably well in slow speeds for everyday commuting and that sort of thing. Triumph does a really good job from like 0 throttle to like that first initial pickup. I'm in sport mode right now, so it's a little jerky, but I kind of want it to be. I want that initial, like similar to like what a cable throttle would give me, that initial pickup of throttle. So go ahead and just banker full lock. Whoops, I had to put a foot down. Somebody's gonna dock me for it in the comments. I saw the gravel. I mean, it's got a decent lock to lock, a pretty good steering sweep. Here, we'll slow down completely, show you guys. Like, it's, you know, the most shallow bike I could think of is a 210 V4, where you go full lock and it's like this. You're like, are you kidding me? So this has a pretty generous lock. If you tip it down, you know, the clutch control it's really smooth on this bike. It's a cable actuated clutch, but the pull is really light. I mean, you can ride the slow speeds really, really nicely. It's really not hard at all to maneuver. The super upright ergonomics gives it a very commanding, easy response. All right, so we got TC disabled. Let's just pop a nice little wheelie. Yeah, you can float the front wheel. It's pretty playful. There's some interesting vibes with this bike. Let's get back in the studio and think a little bit more about this machine.
Right, let's dive a little deeper on this engine. Triumph built 2 engine platforms in one with this triple. The 800 is actually a bored and stroked out version of the 660, which first debuted in 2021 as an answer to the almighty MT-07. Fun fact, that specific displacement of 660 was critical because it is the maximum allowed for A2 in Europe and LAMs in Australia. I think Triumph likely had plans for a big brother triple from the beginning, all the way back in 2021, since the 660 required all new tooling, casting, and R&D. Although that motor does have significant overlap with their legendary 675 mill dating back to 2006. It's funny, now that I think about it, the little engine, big engine parts sharing thing is actually a trick Ducati played for years with their super sports. I guess time really is a flat circle in motorcycling. The cost savings don't stop there though, because the tubular steel frame found in this bike is nearly identical to the 660. The only thing they did differently here was scoop out the inner rails to accommodate the triple throttle bodies that the 800 has. And now, with the Trident and Daytona 660s both using triple throttle bodies, I bet you this is going to be the same frame across all of them. The 660 and 798cc engines have the same mounting locations, so maybe someone can try shoving an 800 series engine into a Daytona 660 and see if it works. Although, if you ask me, I think it's only a matter of time until Triumph debuts a Daytona 800 based on this platform. It's all clever engineering and manufacturing so they can meet the price point. However, it's not enough to just have scale and modularity in the platform, because to meet that aggressive sub $10,000 price point, Triumph had to cut corners. And if you look closely, you can start to find out exactly how they did that. First, take a look at the welds on this frame. It's pretty sloppy and snotty with visibly low quality welds and spattering that you can actually feel with your finger. Then the side-mounted exhaust. Triumph says they needed to change the underbelly stubby design that the 660 has because of the increase in exhaust gases and flow. But to my eye, it looks like the cheapest unit they could possibly build and kind of reminds me of an eBay pipe that you'd fit to some sort of clapped out Craigslist bike. The headlight, one of the signature attractions to this motorcycle, also looks and feels, well, a little bit like an eBay Street Fighter. The braking components are adequate. Stainless steel lines are fed to J1 calipers that are Triumph branded, but again, take a close look at this master cylinder. That's something you'd see on an entry-level Japanese bike, not a European middleweight. The rear shock, as I mentioned a lot in my testing, is woefully soft and quite literally pops me out of my seat. Further adjustment and refinement mellowed this out, but it is just a super cheap shock. There's no two ways about it. Or take a look at the clutch cable routing. I mean, it kind of looks like a total afterthought. And do we need to mention this dash? I mean, this thing has become a bit of an industry whipping boy. I think we're still a solid 3 or 4 years away from a model-wide dash and software upgrade, so don't hold your breath. They also put these on the Speed Twin models as well, which is sacrilege in my opinion. Here's the thing though. Those items I just mentioned, the welds, the master cylinder, the cheap eBay style end can, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that this bike nails the fundamentals, which is the engine, the throttle feel, and just its road holding abilities. I'm gonna get into that a little bit more in my final verdict. At the front end, you get Showa's big piston separate function fork. I believe I've seen this unit used in other lower spec models. Kawasaki uses a version of it on the ZX4RR that has preload only at the front, but this unit has rebound and compression adjustment in one of the legs and no adjustment in the other. Again, we are meeting a price point here. I actually had very little to complain about the front end feel. I turned the clickers a little bit to my liking, and with proper braking inputs, the front end felt totally settled and sorted at a spirited street pace. I felt like I could load the front tire and had a lot of information getting transmitted back to me. Speaking of which, Triumph equips the Trident 800 with Michelin Road 6s as standard, which is the absolute correct choice for this bike. And it'll let you buy this thing brand new and enjoy it for at least 10,000 miles completely worry-free in terms of tires. You have an extremely standard 120/70/17 size up front paired with a 180/55/17 out back. That means you get to spoon on whatever tires you'd like with this thing, but Road 6s are the right choice. The Trident is also a very standard size and weight as well, being immediately familiar if you've ever ridden any other motorcycle, tipping the scales at 437 pounds wet and ready to ride with a seat height of 31.9 inches and a pretty narrow seat, has a nice standover feel. Myself at about 5'11" with a 32-inch inseam, this bike fits me really well. The handlebars are a little bit higher than you would expect, a little bit wider, the foot pegs are a little lower than you think, so it kind of gives that roadster motard feeling. Why is this all starting to sound so familiar? It's almost like I've owned something like this before. Anyways, the Trident has a 55.2-inch wheelbase with a 24.5-degree angle of rake and 4.2 inches of trail, which makes it much more relaxed from a geometry perspective than a street triple, even in the original low-spec R version that they no longer sell. I said it a lot in my first ride, but this really isn't meant to be any sort of track bike, and that is okay. When looking at the competition, this bike slots right down the middle, except in price, where it's one of the cheapest bikes you can get. It's a bang for buck king. Wait, I've said that about another bike in the past too. I think it just hit me. The Trident 800 is a modern day, first generation FZ09. As I was logging all of my test miles on this motorcycle, something dawned on me. This bike is following the exact same formula as the first generation FZ09 from Yamaha, a bike that received universal praise on its debut for its cheap price, torque-rich 3-cylinder, and made infamous by its snatchy throttle and crazy handling. It was soft, it bucked and weaved, and it could rip 4th gear power wheelies if you had the skill to pay the bills. The Trident 800 is the same damn thing. Why did we forgive and praise Yamaha for their bike, but we turn to the Trident and decry that it's budget slop from Triumph? The FZ09 ushered in one of the most successful models Yamaha has ever created, spawning 4 different generations and selling tens of thousands of units. It was cross-platformed into sport touring bikes, super sports, and it even found its way into that crazy Nikon thing that they made. Do you remember that? Consider this. The original FZ09 debuted in 2013 with a price of $7,990. Adjusted for 2026 dollars, that's $11,406. And that first generation FZ09 is a remarkably worse motorcycle than this new Trident 800. You had to make a lot of excuses for the FZ09 and honestly spend serious cash trying to fix it. In 2016, I owned a first generation FZ09. It was a 2014 model year bike. I spent a lot of time chasing issues, suspension problems, snatchy throttles, etc., and I really could never fix it. Then I found all the articles that Ari Henning wrote about his long-term bike, and he could never fix it either. And if Ari Henning couldn't fix the issues, I sure as hell wasn't gonna fix them. This new Trident comes in at $9,995, and it has none of the issues of a first generation FZ09. You can ride this bike as fast as you'd like on road, and it does the job just fine. Sure, push it a little too hard and hit a bump or two at a weird angle and the rear wants to eject you. And yeah, the refinement seems to have all gone into the engine and throttle feel with everything else feeling like a budget bike. But is that really a problem? We've spent the last 20, maybe 30 years convincing average street riders that they need competition-grade machines to enjoy motorcycling. Legions of riders putting around town on R6s with titanium valves and 16,000 RPM redlines, utilizing maybe 5% of what that machine can offer. And the tides have been shifting ever since the 2008 financial crisis. Supersport sales dried up and they never really returned. The collective consciousness moved on from race replicas, twins, and triples, took over and won. Motorcycle tech and design advanced at light speed to the point where the average middleweight naked bike today is as fast, if not faster, than an old school 600 class bike, stock for stock. So much so that something like this Trident 800 has a trickle-down benefit from those advancements. And although the Trident 800 could be more pessimistically understood as a vaguely pleasing middle-of-the-road motorcycle, it's actually a very interesting new take on an old idea. Let me put it to you this way. This is a beginner plus motorcycle with a huge hot-rodded engine shoved in the middle. Between the cheap brakes, the eBay-style muffler, the awful rear shock, the cheap tubular steel frame, the generic single round headlight, it's almost like someone took a 2004 SV650 and threw this 798cc triple into it. And as much as I thought it would just be slop and generically pleasing, I actually enjoyed riding this bike so much. I appreciated the old school nature of it, how we used to just need a good engine, nice fueling, and the rest was up to interpretation. I mean, have you actually ridden a mid-2000s Japanese bike lately? They all feel like this. The brakes are crap, the handling is suspect, but the engines are great. That's exactly what Yamaha did with the FZ09. And I have to say, it's pretty remarkable that Yamaha got the formula right for modern day naked bikes so early with the FZ machines. Now, I do think the styling on this machine is a bit of a mess. That's just my personal opinion and an aesthetic preference, and I think the Trident 660 looks way more cohesive. The 800 tries to be neo-retro and sport bike, but kind of fails on both ends. So, is there anything really wrong with this bike? I mean, if you ride it and expect a corner-carving European middleweight sport bike, then yeah, you're gonna be disappointed. But you need to be realistic. This is as much big bike as any intermediate rider could really want, at a really good price point. It has flaws, no doubt, but ultimately, I had a lot of fun riding it and I really enjoyed it. Is it a street triple? No. It says Trident on the gas tank. Duh. It feels budget, it's a little rough around the edges, but it's less than 10 grand and it's got a great engine. Isn't that what motorcycling is meant to be? As companies like Chipotle and Cava have proven, there is a market for the corporate slop bowl. Is it fantastic food? No. Is it vaguely pleasing? Sure. But does it do what it needs to do, which is fuel up corporate employees? Absolutely. Not every day can be filled with gourmet foods, quirky flavors, temperamental maintenance schedules, if you catch my drift. Sometimes you just want and need a workhorse bike that can do a little bit of everything, that's very happy on road at home. Especially if you're a newer rider that's, let's be honest, strapped a little bit for cash. Triumph's new offerings are more reliable, cheaper, still exciting to ride, and maybe not as special as they used to be, but nobody eats Michelin star food every night, and if we did, it would stop being special. In an ironic twist, the shoddy build quality gives the bike some old school character and charm that we've lost in the ultra polished and premium bikes of today. Most of the middleweights and even Yamaha's own MT09 have become super polished, and that has its place in the market too. I don't think I'm gonna overthink this one too much. This is a fun bike at a good price with a solid engine. It's pretty good. I enjoyed my ride with it, and I look forward to logging more miles with it as our featured giveaway. Maybe I'll try some mods while I have it, since this isn't a short sweepstakes, and maybe I can sort out some of the issues. I'm gonna rate it a 7.8 out of 10 for today's video. Thanks for watching today's upload. What do you think of this machine? Remember, it's a giveaway bike on my website, yammynoob.co. Click the link down below and become a member to support one of the largest independent voices in motorcycling and get your chance to win. You can also pick up any piece of merch and you'll automatically be entered to win as well. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.